Really great guest this hour. A very important story. It is Clayton Echard. You were the Bachelor in 2022.
That's correct.
So try to get as close to the mic as you can. I do not watch The Bachelor.
Yeah.
And
for the best.
So you're telling me that during like football commercials, you'd be like that guy. They'd be like, "He's the Bachelor," you know, one of the promo guys.
Yeah, I mean, again, everywhere I go, I thought there would be some sense of normalcy and privacy, but it's just once you're out there for good. So,
How many? There's been like what, 20 Bachelors, right? Is that correct?
I think 27 at this point.
27.
Yeah.
So you're kind of in a very tight knit club. Is that right?
Fortunately or unfortunately, yeah.
So tell us your story.
Yeah, so where I'm currently at and why I'm here today is, I guess fame comes with a side of madness. In this last year, I've been dealing with a false accusation from a woman that claims she was impregnated by me with twins. We are now a year into that. And she never was pregnant. The whole thing was a lie. She has done this previously to 3 other men that we're aware of. She's been doing this for 8 years now, at least. And she claimed that she was impregnated with them by them with twins as well. How do we know that she's made all this up? Well, the doctors that she said that she has seen, all 7 of them came back, said they have no record of her. We did a paternity test at one point. That came back as little to no fetal DNA twice because she was never pregnant. And she also had sent me an ultrasound video at one point that she put online as well and was found 24 hours later by the Reddit audience online to be from a video from YouTube 6 years ago. So everything has went back to she's made this entire thing up. She's claimed that she was pregnant, which is a lie. She claimed she had a miscarriage, which is a lie. She's claimed with one of the previous victims that she had ovarian cancer. She's claimed she's been raped. She said that I did that as well after we have evidence and everything's been documented showing that she said what we did was consensual, but we didn't have sexual intercourse. I want to make that
So it would have been an immaculate conception.
Correct. Yes. And so here we are where she has lied. We have a June 10th hearing coming up where we hope that justice will be served. We're real hoping that ruling will be found that she lied. She probably won't admit it herself, but the judge hopefully will find that.
So I want to go way back. This is super important.
Yeah.
And so there's so many elements here. Mm-hmm. So you are the Bachelor.
Yes.
And so you're a big target.
Correct. Yeah. This is my second false accusation that I've dealt with.
Is that right?
Yeah. I had a
Is that one been completed?
The other one was I solved pretty quickly through location services on my phone. This woman said that I flew out to New York, hooked up with her, and flew back, but my phone showed that I was in Scottsdale.
So just independently curious, does this happen to a lot of former bachelors?
No, apparently it's just me.
Okay, it's just
I got some bad juju or something. Okay, I don't know what happened.
We'll work on that. So you're a big deal. You're like one of the more desirable men in the country, right? So
yeah.
So this young lady, you have an experience together, and then she all of a sudden comes to you and says, "I'm pregnant with twins" and all that, and your first reaction is, "What?
No way. Not at all." It was 11 days later that she sent me the message from a different phone number. I'd blocked her already, and she said that she was pregnant. At the time, it was 1 child. It progressed to twins because I found out when we were doing the paternity test. She said, "Hey, we can't do a paternity test because they don't do it when there's twins involved because there's a small chance that it could be 2 different fathers. So they won't do a test on twins, but most won't, but certain facilities will." But originally she came out and said that, yeah, she's pregnant, and she said, "Okay, so here's how it'll go. Either you date me for a week, and if it doesn't work out after a week, I'll have an abortion. And if you don't date me, then I'm having the child." So that's basically what she told me that was needed to happen.
So, first of all, I didn't know that if you have twins, it could be 2 different fathers. That's interesting.
Some anomaly online, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. So, I guess they could be 2 different eggs that are fertilized simultaneously, I suppose. You'd have to be quite an active
There's some
person.
liability apparently involved.
Well, you'd have to be a very, very active person in a certain window. Let's put it that way.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, so the part of the story that's very important is then she went to the media.
She did.
Correct?
Yes.
And so you're trying to deal with this privately.
Yeah.
And then she goes to the media, and then do they ask questions? Do they analyze this? Do they see if she's telling the truth?
No, it went straight to "I'm guilty." until proven innocent. I mean, she came out anonymously online through The Sun. They published an article. It got picked up right away by all these different news sources, and they all ran with it. And people online said, this is exactly the kind of guy that we knew he was. He's a terrible human being. This tracks. And now, what does he have to say to this? And so I went right out on the defense. I said, I got to go back and combat this. So I went out online and said, none of this is true. And then it became, okay, then prove it. And so that was the reception that I faced when it first went public. As I went straight into defense mode, I was already guilty in the eyes of the majority.
So the media didn't ask, do you think the media slandered you, or do you think that they libeled you?
Yeah, my personal opinion is they did. I spoke with one of the publicists, and they said, listen, this might be one of the best things for you, for this to go out publicly, because all press is good press. I said, I don't want to deal with this. I've already went through enough. I've been struggling as is with my mental health. I was torn to shreds after the show. People didn't really like me. I was a polarizing bachelor. I said, I don't want this.
Oh, is that right? See, I have no idea.
Yeah.
You should just have comfort. Most people have no idea about that stuff.
Yeah, it feels like the entire world watched me, but the reality is it's a microcosm that did, but they speak so loud.
Like 16-year-old girls watch you. Okay.
There's apparently 6 to 8 million people, but when you take the entire population of the U.S., where it's like 330,
I'm just trying to comfort you.
I know,
like,
I'm with you. No, I'm past. I appreciate that, but I'm past that point now.
Okay, good. Yeah.
I've come into knowing who I am now, and I have confidence. And at this point, I don't
praise
really,
God. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I don't really care as much anymore. But it does feel like the entire world, when 6 million people are screaming at you, that's what it feels like.
No, for sure, of course. It's on network TV, right? And they're constantly running promos.
Yeah.
So the media smears and slanders you. You want nothing to do with this. And so now you're kind of in this dogfight-ish legal fight with this individual who does this basically professionally.
Yeah, I pulled the previous court cases because when she went public, I got a message within 12 hours saying, hey, you're not the only guy. Go take a look at this court case. And they gave me a number. And I searched it in the system, and I pulled it up, and boom, same text messages. I mean, verbatim. It was this has been practiced over and over again. And so, at that point, though, then it was a matter of she was trying to destroy my reputation. And I couldn't go anywhere with her without her harassing me. She sent letters to my family. She sent letters to my place of employment. She sent emails to nonprofits.
What was she saying? Like that this is a bad guy that is...
So I'm a mental health advocate, and at the time I was speaking around the country. I was talking to middle school, high school, college-age kids about just destigmatizing the conversations around mental health. She started reaching out to these nonprofits, these mental health organizations, saying, "Hey, this guy's not who you think he is. I am pregnant by his twins, and he won't even step up, and he doesn't care about my mental health, and he's letting me just deal with this on my own." So she started reaching out to all of them. I had a few of those opportunities pulled. And then she went after my relationships. I went to Miami to go see a friend and my cousin. And she ended up sending a parenting plan. She was trying to get papers served to me. And she was sending them to women that I had talked to in the past. Well, one of them that I had talked to, the other one I had mentioned on a podcast once. I said, hey, I would have interest in her. And she tried to serve papers to both of those individuals that were living in Miami. I mean, she just, wherever I went, she tried to smother me with, just with information.
You are a perfect example of a trend of guilty until proven innocent. Mm-hmm. Do you believe that I have a lot to discuss here.
Yeah.
The lessons, takeaways, very similar to the Trevor Bauer situation.
Yeah, I'm very aware of that. That happened.
That was also Scottsdale, right?
That happened here locally.
Is there something in the water here?
I don't know, man. You got to tell me. It just was kind of shocking to be so close to home. But there's a lot of parallels, different.
Eerily similar.
Eerily
right?
similar, correct.
So what? We have about 20 seconds here, but what are you in court with her about right now?
Really, at this point, she opened a family court hearing against me. I then turned it back and filed on her. I'm looking for justice to get served. I want accountability to be had. I want her to face consequences for her actions.
She still has a family court hearing on you?
Yeah, well, I held it open. She opened it against me, and I've held it open.
She seems really sweet. All right, we are here with Clayton Echard. Social media, people want to follow you?
Yeah, it's Clayton Echard.
Cool. I want to talk about the mental health stuff. I want to get into all that. Clayton, you have this court date, and you said some of the other men that she has extorted are going to be there.
Yeah, at least 2, possibly the third one.
So this is a pattern.
Yeah, it's repetitive.
What have you learned by talking to the other victims?
Well, it made me feel less alone because we went through the same things. I mean, the previous two guys, she claimed she was pregnant with twins with those two as well. So as we started comparing notes, showing previous text messages, and just talking with one another, there was a playbook to this. She's very calculated, and she doesn't work alone. Again, her mom's her accomplice. Her mom's complicit in this behavior.
Oh, is that right?
I'm spoken to her mom on the phone, or she's very aware of what she's doing, and she, I think, is a part of this whole operation.
Essentially, her operation is hook up with a man, and then like pretend she has children with him and get money.
She's not after money. What she's after, in my opinion, is she's after validation from others. So she has a mental health podcast. So she basically takes these stories, spins them, becomes the victim, and then uses that for credibility. So she gets validation online and through her podcast, through saying, "Hey, I'm a victim of prior domestic abuse. And I was formerly pregnant, and these men treated me terribly." She's done TED Talks, or one TED Talk on this matter with the previous victim. It's a complete lie, the entire TED Talk. But she uses this to be the victim when the reality is she's the aggressor.
And so at this hearing, she's going to have to be confronted by all this.
Yeah, I mean, it's all coming to a head. It's going to be me, the other victims there as well. One of them's testifying. I'll obviously be testifying. And again, we want justice to be served because it just hasn't happened yet. Now, granted, we have a really good shot at it. All of the motions that we have filed have been approved. All of her recent motions have been denied. I think we're in a really good position to have this referred, hopefully, to the DA for prosecution.
So, I mean, I guess this is a hard question to answer. What did you learn from this?
Oh man, that's a big. A lot. I guess is the first thought that popped in my head. I think the biggest thing is for me is to just trust that everything will work itself out, and I think it's all for a bigger purpose. Did I make mistakes? Absolutely. I'm not trying to dodge any type of responsibility. I could have, not taken the actions that I did, but the reality is I did take actions, and here I am today. I believe that this is bigger than me, and I believe that this could potentially help other individuals. I've had a lot of men come forward in private and say, "Hey, this happened to me," or "This happened to my friend." I've had women say, "This happened to my brother." It's more common than people realize, and I think the frustrating part is there's been pushback online. I think the reason why we haven't seen a lot of coverage is because I've seen people say, "Hey, listen, we don't want this to become a reverse Me Too movement. We don't want people to stop believing women." This isn't about believing women or not. This is a matter of believing victims. But this story has been suppressed because I've seen this online. People have said, "Hey, if this gets out and people are going to stop believing women, we don't want that." And so I've been called a men's rights activist, especially when I posted about Trevor Bauer. I posted about his story, and I got all these messages in my DMs. "You're a men's rights activist." I'm like, I have no interest in trying to discredit women. I'm just trying to credit victims. That's all it is. Believe the truth and maybe reserve a little judgment to not make form opinions until all the facts are out, because I got thrown to the wolves right out the gate, and that was tough to have to fight that uphill battle to prove my innocence, when it should be, I think, the opposite scenario. I should be innocent until proven guilty.
Do you think that there's an anti-male sentiment in this country?
I mean, as a blanket statement as a whole, I think there's a population of people that have a really hard time seeing me as a victim. I've read this all online. These are not my opinions. These are just the facts of the matter. I've had people online say, "Look at him. He's a good-looking guy, former athlete. I mean, it's hard to feel bad for him." And the reality is, what hurts me is I wasn't. I used to be bullied. I used to be, a third of the size that I am now. I used to be friend zoned by every girl growing up. I didn't. The way that I appear is not the way that I see myself in the mirror. And so for people to discredit me and say, "Oh, boo-hoo, be quiet. You've got enough good things going for you. It's really hard for me to feel bad for you." It's like, well, now you're discrediting what I've went through, and I feel silenced, and I feel alone. And that's what I've seen online. Is I'm like, I feel hopeless. There's days where I felt hopeless because I'm like, why won't anyone just listen to me, because it's the truth. I just want to feel validated. I don't want.
Why do you think they won't listen to you?
Because I think they don't want to see. I was told if the roles were reversed, that I as the man would have been arrested months ago. I was told by someone high up in the judicial system that if this was a female bachelorette and there was a man that was doing something like this, that this wouldn't have gone on for as long.
Yeah. So what does that mean?
I think that there's bias based off of my gender. Yeah. It's out there. Yeah.
And I mean, and you have two other men that then are also coming to court. The Trevor Bauer thing.
Yeah.
It is it's an unjust system. Being the Bachelor and being through this, what advice for dating do you have for young people? I mean, because you kind of are like now one of the. I mean, you're a dating expert. You've been through hell. What?
I think I'm always learning, and progressing.
Well, but then,
what's my advice?
Glean from your experience and offer some wisdom, because pain is a teacher of wisdom.
Absolutely. Be authentically you. Just be yourself. You'll attract ultimately the energy that you are. I think, when I went through this experience as the Bachelor, I didn't have full confidence and self-love in who I was. And so I went into that experience basically trying to please everyone, the producers, the audience, the women, myself. And you can't please all those people, but you can be yourself through it all while I wasn't. And so I created somewhat of a facade, this tough guy exterior, and it didn't pan out well for me. So I think, I started attracting a different audience that I didn't want around me because who I was, this creative human being that I've now am expressing outwardly, was suppressed. So the authentic, genuine people that wanted to be around me or were similar to me had no idea who I actually was. So my advice to people is be you. Will you get pushback? Absolutely. Have I gotten pushback for getting earrings? Yeah. Have I gotten pushback for dancing now? Yeah, absolutely. But am I attracting people that like that? Absolutely. And it feels really just awesome to see people that support the things that I genuinely love.
So for those that don't know, do you, I don't want to say regret, what do you think of your time doing The Bachelor? Would you do it again?
Yeah. Because this has finally caused me to have to come to terms with my reality, which is that I was living a life that was a lie my entire life, trying to impress people by building up an image that I thought people would, see, or I would get validation from. And I did throughout points in my life. When I became an NFL athlete briefly, I got all the validation in the world. Wow, that's super impressive. But then I stopped being an NFL athlete and I lost it all, and that void came back. So I tried to fill that validation again that I was seeking, and then I found it in The Bachelor. And then eventually I wasn't the shiny object anymore, and that void was there again. And I said, I'm so tired of having this void. What is it going to take for me to finally feel good enough? And it's when I realized, I was like, you have to choose to feel good enough. It's that simple. There's people that are still in your hometown that love their lives and love who they are. And they didn't have to do all those things you did to seek validation. They have that internal validation. I had to go through this whole experience to realize that no matter how high I climb, I won't feel good enough until I finally choose to feel that way.
Being one of the Bachelor, is it hard to date?
Yeah, it is.
So talk about that. I mean, you're like professionally good looking. You're 6'5".
Thanks.
How
man.
could it be hard to date? I mean,
because you always are questioning people's intentions. I can pick it up now, but I will have women that'll say they'll act shocked whenever it finally gets uncovered. I don't walk into the situation. Oh, I was the former Bachelor, so I hide it. A lot of times as much as I can, and then it'll come out and they'll say, "Oh, I had no idea. Well, I don't watch that show." But then I can start to realize, no, they're just saying that. They actually do know who I am, and this is, all a lie on their part. So it's hard because you start to go, okay, do people like me for who I am authentically, or do they like me for what I've done? So every time I meet somebody, I'm always going straight into detective mode, trying to figure out.
That must be exhausting.
It is. Yeah, it is. But I mean, again, that's just my reality. There's no other way around it. I just have to accept the facts for what they are. So I've gotten really good at reading people. I have to. Otherwise, they'll take advantage of me like they have in the past.
I mean, I'm sure there's no shortage of women that you can want to find. Or are you in a serious relationship now, or kind of not so much? Yeah. So you are a Bachelor.
There actually is a shortage of women, but that's because I have begun to be authentically who I am. And it's pushed away a large majority of people that see what I do as cringy. I mean, listen, I'm not a good dancer. I know that. But I love to dance, and I've gotten better than when I started a year ago. But a lot of people see that, and they're like, oh, that's cringy. So I've actually reduced my dating pool by pushing away the people that don't like that. But
down to a manageable size?
Yeah. But like what I've done, though, is now it's like I don't have to weed through all those individuals. They weren't going to be right for me anyways. At some point, if I would have not danced, they might have realized who I really was and not liked who I am. So I've actually limited the dating pool. So options are limited, but I don't have to weed through as many people that don't like who I am. Now it's just like people that come around me do like me.
And you want one day to get married, have kids?
Yeah, that's the goal. Yeah, I mean, I think the whole purpose in life is or what gives life meaning are relationships. Of all the things that I've done, again, these are all temporary moments of satisfaction to be this, to be that, to be in the spotlight. But you realize, like, at the end of the day, I just love being able to hang out with my brothers and just be in their presence. We can be sitting outside, in the sun by the pool, and those are the moments where I'm most happy with my life. It's those simple things. And so without relationships, I'm like, what's the point of life? So I just want to get that back, and I want to build a family.
So there was the paternity test, the alleged miscarriage. When did you realize what was actually happening?
Well, fairly early on, because I wanted, when she said, "Hey, listen, this is the reality of the fact you've got me pregnant," I said, "I don't believe it based off of the fact that we didn't have sexual intercourse, but like, let's go have an ultrasound done." Well, she said, "Okay, we got to wait a certain period of time for that." I said, "Okay, then let's cut off communication until that point." She, of course, then didn't. She kept sending me messages harassing me. But then when it came time to do the ultrasound, she rescheduled it and said, "I'm fearful that I can't trust that you won't show up and potentially harm me." So she said, "I'm going to reschedule and not let you know when it is." I said, "That's fine. Then you can FaceTime me when you go." And then she just said, reschedule it, and then never ever did it. And I'm like, okay, so you won't even, I can't even get a doctor to sign off this. I asked for the doctor that apparently at Planned Parenthood that did an ultrasound early on and said she was pregnant, had the documents. I said, "Well, let me talk to her." She wouldn't let me talk to the doctor. So I said, "It's really simple. If you won't let me talk to them, then why would I believe you?" So I knew at that point early on, probably within the first couple months, I was like, there's no truth in this at all.
Well, yeah, and it's a key point. She feared for her safety because she knows a guy can't argue a woman feels unsafe. So she has to go to that card immediately. Mm-hmm. And so you realized what was happening here. How did you find the other men?
Yeah, I mean, because the second she went public, I think it was the worst thing that she could have done. And she thought she was going to stay anonymous and destroy my character and everything that I have. But when she went public, it just opened up the floodgates. And I started, I got 2 DMs, 2 different people said, "You're not alone. Look up this court case." And so I looked up the court case, and when I went and looked up the court case, I saw there was another man that was named in that from a previous case. And so then I had reached out because I said, okay, I need to talk to these guys and see what's going on here. And so I started having those conversations, and then when I just realized it was almost a carbon copy from one case to the next, I realized, wow, this is an ongoing thing, and this is why she's so good at it, is because she's had practice. And what doesn't work,
people like this should go to jail, shouldn't they?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, again, the fact that she hasn't faced any accountability this entire time for the last 8 years.
Are there laws against falsely accusing somebody to try to extort them and get...
Yeah. I mean, from my understanding, absolutely there is. And she's admitted to medical fraud. I mean, she's already admitted to it. She said that she doctored the ultrasound and changed the name of the provider that did it. I'm like, so she's admitted to that kind of medical fraud already. I'm like, that's punishable. Medical fraud is. She's claimed that threatened to sue me for a certain amount of money. So she's also defamed me. That's punishable.
Will you sue her civilly?
That's where things will head if I don't get the outcome that I'm looking for on June 10th. I'll have no choice but to hold her accountable.
And the outcome is, I don't want to put you on the spot, justice is what you're looking for?
The outcome is justice. Again,
okay.
I want this to be referred to the DA for prosecution. Because,
here in Maricopa County?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Because she should be prosecuted.
Who's Rachel Mitchell? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think with all of the facts that are out there...
and I will personally, publicly and privately encourage her to just enforce the law, because I think this is super important.
Yeah.
You can't just make stuff up and act like it's just going to happen. I mean, the equal is, of course, if there was some bachelorette, like you said, and you were like, "Oh yeah, we did," you would be in jail right now. You'd be a felon.
Yeah, I just want...
And this will keep on happening unless people serve time in prison.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there needs to be some type of repercussions for these kind of actions. If she walks freely, what do you think she's going to do? She's going to feel indestructible. She's going to feel, invincible, and she's going to go out and do it again. I mean, why would she stop? She did it as recently as me, and she's done it for the last 8 years. What makes you think she won't do it again?
And she sounds like a real peach.
Yeah. I got a lot of thoughts. Again, I reserve, my job.
Yeah, of course.
Just because
that's fine. So, speaking of mental health problems, you're a mental health advocate. Mm-hmm, So tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest thing is when I went through my experience on the show, again, I wasn't a fan favorite, so I was,
why is that? You got to help me out, because I mean...
Yeah, okay.
You're talking about so far off and distant world. What happened on the show here? Did you...
I fell in love with 3 women at once.
How does the show work?
So you date 30 women, and then
What do you mean you date 30? That's very like
it's a show based in polyamory.
It's very like 1300s. What do you mean?
It's a show based in polyamory where the goal is to get down to monogamy, where you end up getting engaged with one woman.
Okay, I'm vaguely familiar. So you have 30 women. Are you guys like on an island, or are you like in an area? Like, how does this
You're
work?
all over the world. I mean, yeah, we traveled the country. It was incredible.
Okay, so it's not like they're all in a mansion living together.
At certain points, yeah, but then
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Yeah, so I mean, at the beginning of the show, they stay in a mansion. I stayed in a hotel separate, and then we went to Canada, we went to Austria, we went to Croatia, Iceland.
With the women, all 30?
Well, you start to eliminate them over time.
You eliminate them.
Yeah, that's probably not the right word I should have used, but that's the truth. I mean, there's a it's like you send people home over time, and then you try to get down to one person.
Okay.
I just happened to fall in love with three women.
Afuera. You just start done with that. So the group, you guys traveled together to all these very palatial areas.
Correct.
Okay. So
Yeah.
and what happens at each one? You go on dates with each one of them?
Yeah, you go on these extravagant dates. I mean, I went into an active volcano for a date. I went, to Iceland, and we did dune buggy, riding in the black sand beaches of Reykjavik, Iceland.
And they all want to be with you.
Well, I don't know if all of them wanted to be with me, but they make it appear that way.
I'm not saying this sarcastic. Why would any woman want to do this?
Well, yeah, for the reason why people go on the show, a lot of times it's for external validation or fame.
Okay. Because they get a lot of clicks and social media followers.
Yeah, most of these women had no idea it was me when they came on the show. I mean, that's what they told me.
What do you mean?
They didn't know it was me. They just showed up, and I happened to be the Bachelor. They didn't know it was me ahead of time.
No, of course. No, it's the idea of a bachelor, of course.
Yeah.
Meaning like it's, attractive guy, whatever. It fits the criteria.
Yeah.
But so it's fame seeking, essentially.
Again, I can't speak for all of them, but yeah,
Okay,
a lot of them, yeah.
So again, I'm not being like sarcastic.
No, I
I'm
know,
generally
yeah.
interested in this. So you travel the world and you fall in love with one of them.
Yeah.
Is that like a big no-no? You're not supposed to do that?
No, the goal is to fall in love with one, not three. Technically, I mean,
So you fell in love with one?
Three.
Oh, three. I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
misheard. So all three of them. Wow. That is polyamorous.
Yeah, I fell in love with each of them for different things, and that's when I realized I was in trouble because I knew that I told myself I got asked early on, can you fall in love with multiple people? I said no. They said why? I said because they, as in the producers. I said because if I do, it's going to be a massive mess. And then I did one day. I realized I had fallen in love with multiple women. I started hysterically laughing on an elevator in Iceland. They're like, "What are you laughing about?" I said, "I'm so screwed." They said, "Why?" I said, "Because I just realized I've fallen in love with three women." Of course, they were like, "Get them in a room right now."
Well, but how are the ratings of your show? They're probably really good.
It ramped back up. Yeah, the show's kind of lost followers over the years, but mine was pretty dramatic. Yeah, my season it definitely brought people back in.
Okay, so you were a polarizing bachelor because of that. So
because I was too.
But at the
honest,
very end,
yeah.
you have to give a rose or something. Is that correct? You choose. So how did it end?
Yeah, so basically what happened was I ended up expressing feelings of love to multiple women, and I was intimate with multiple women. And then one of them was bothered by it, and then I went and told the other two women, hey, she was bothered by it, so I'm going to let you all know what's occurred. And that's where I got a lot of blowback. People were really upset that I was so open and transparent about it and my actions, but I was just being honest. I was like, hey, listen, I can't hide this. This is what happened. So you all should know. And that's where, of course, I became, a villain. Everyone said, well, how could he just tell these women and do this publicly? And I was like, well, I had no choice. I couldn't tell them privately. There was no option to. And if I didn't tell them then, they were going to.
Do you wish you would have just chosen one, or you couldn't do that?
I mean, yeah, that would have made things simpler. But I just fell in love with three women. I mean, I genuinely fought it until it ended up happening. I fought it. Then it happened, and I was like, well, this is where I'm at, and I guess this show, people are okay with this because that's the nature of the show. But people did not like how open I was about it, and they thought I should have been more guarded and protected these women. And of course, I could have done things better, but I didn't have the option to tell these women behind closed doors.
Yeah, and so then the show ended with you with basically no women. Then. Is that right?
Yeah, until I reconnected with one of them shortly after, and then we ended up dating for a year. And that was the thing, was the whole show is based around it was Camp Clayton versus Camp Susie, my ex, and because we had a really tense moment in the show and people took sides, but then we ended up together, and then people didn't like seeing us together because they were like, well, I kind of liked, I was on Clayton's side, and the other people were like, well, I was on Susie's side, and so there was already just people didn't like us being together as one because we're like, hey, we're unified now. You should support us as a couple, and people just couldn't get behind it.
And now you don't talk to any of them.
I don't keep in touch with Susie because she's in a relationship now, so out of respect, I don't. Yeah. But I mean, I'm still friends with her, I would say.
Well, thank you for explaining all that. That's quite a experience. So what did you learn about women?
I have a lot to learn still.
No, what did you learn
about
dating 30 women around the world? What did you learn?
That you shouldn't date multiple people at once. At least, I mean, it's different strokes for different folks. I shouldn't date that many people ever. I'll stick to one. That's simple enough. But again, it's a matter of it just wasn't for me, and I think it's pretty obvious. Like,
what did you learn about female nature?
That you just have to. I mean, everyone's a little bit different. I guess that's the way I can put it. Is like
let me ask you this.
Yeah, I guess
so. You're physically very attractive with all your criteria, and I say this with an unblemished record of heterosexuality. For the record, that's a George Costanza quote. Do you think the women were more interested in your looks or the fame, or are women more visual driven, or are they driven by something else? Would you say?
I think for that experience, they were more driven to the fame that could come from it. I was secondary.
You were secondary
to the majority of this.
How did that make you feel?
I felt it, and I felt that I wasn't good enough because I always felt that way my entire life. And so that really just dug into me, and I was very insecure on the show because I thought, how many of these women actually really like me for me? And I thought the majority of them just wanted to be famous.
So after dating 30 women, do you feel as if you know more or less about women?
Good question. A little bit of both, honestly. I think I learned a lot.
If you're more confused, that's perfectly understandable.
I think I am more confused, but again, I think that was just an environment that I have to just say, hey, listen, you can't attribute too much of the real world to this.
You're terrific. You're being very honest. No, I was hoping you'd be like, I'm a total expert in women, but
no, I'm not a total expert in anything, man. I'm just learning.
Praise God for the humility. I want to talk more about that. Talk about your mental health advocacy.
Yeah, so it was put on hold with this whole thing because what happened was when the story first came out, I had somebody that was sending out emails saying, hey, Clayton would like to come speak at your university. And I was starting to receive messages back saying, hey, we Googled Clayton and we're seeing what's going on right now and we cannot bring him in with all this occurring. So it really put all that on hold. So I had to basically then just focus on real estate, which is what I do, and solar sales. And so I just went down those avenues and said, okay, hey, eventually I'll return to this once I can clear my name. But right now, I mean, I'm just using my social media. I go on podcasts. I talk about mental health here and there. I would like to have a bigger role again in that realm. So I'm hoping to get back to that.
We'll talk about it. So what particularly do you address in that arena when it comes to people's mental health, or destigmatizing it, you say?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I'm trying to do is just get people to realize that it makes you stronger by being vulnerable. And so the more you talk about it, you actually bring others, you attract them, and you share the struggles with them, and you feel less alone, and it gives you hope. And that's what I've found. So I want people to come out of the darkness and realize, like, hey, I'm struggling with this, but it doesn't make you any less of a human. It makes you actually stronger to come out and say, hey, I'm struggling, right? And to be vulnerable. And I know, men struggle with this because there's this image of we got to be, put our hand in the dirt and just push through it all and be tough and be the protector. And so I want, I'm wanting to get more men to speak openly about it. But what's been great is I've had a lot of women open up as well as I've been more vocal. So, just working on continuing to get people to be more confident in sharing their truth, because you keep seeing time and time again, there's just that golfer recently that took his own life.
Killed himself last weekend.
Yeah. And it's like, what if he had just felt like he wasn't alone? I bet he felt alone to some degree. I don't know his whole story, but if he had people that said, hey, you're not alone in this, I think, might have given him enough hope. I'm guessing he was hopeless to some degree. And it's a shame because he was so young. He had a lot of life to live.
Yeah. So, I mean, what is your explanation why so many people are depressed and anxious right now?
I think it has a lot to do with comparison culture. So I think it's because we are so obsessed with social media and what we're seeing, and we go online and we click on one person's profile and we're like, man, look at them. They have so much more than we have. And then what happens? The algorithm feeds you someone similar. So you click on that one, then that one, then that one.
Thou shalt not covet. Yeah.
And then after about an hour,
commandment.
Yep, you've seen 100 people that you think have a better life than you, and you start to say, well, my life is worthless. All these people are so much more successful than I am. And I think that's the big driver, is just how bad these algorithms are with social media and what they push in front of people.
It's the most depressed, suicidal, alcohol-addicted generation in history.
Yeah.
And I know that this is not I'm not blaming you, but The Bachelor probably doesn't help with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think people watch the show and they don't realize that at the end of the day, it's still a show, but they go, look.
No, meaning that, these are people that are at the highest level of beauty standards, right? And they say, I don't look that way, and it probably doesn't help very much. No, I'm not blaming you.
No, I agree.
It kind of plays into that. And Clayton, you're a Christian as well, is that right?
I am, yes.
Tell us about, is that a new journey for you, or?
No, I was raised Lutheran, and then now since I would say I fall under non-denominational. And, for me, of course, I leaned on my faith through all of this and just said, hey, I have, God's over me right now, and he's watching over, and ultimately I'll see this through. He wouldn't put me into something that I couldn't overcome.
God has a plan. That's right.
Yeah. So I just had to keep relying on that. But I did, again, I made a really bad mistake, and I'm very open about this. When I went on the show, I came to terms with the fact that I didn't feel like it was a very godly show. And so I prayed one night to God. I said, God, I understand that this isn't very godly. So I wouldn't be upset if you step back, and I'm going to go through this experience, and I'll see you on the other side, I suppose, because I am going to go through with this. Big mistake, and I think I don't know if, I think he might have taken a step back. Okay. I'll give you that distance, but he was always there with me that entire time. When everything went south on the show, actually, I was driving back in the car back to the hotel, and I saw the Northern Lights for the first time. And I really felt like that was a sign that he was like, I've never left you this entire time. But a major, human mistake on my part to say, hey, listen, I'm going on the show. I don't think it's godly, but I'm going to do it, Lord. So I don't, it doesn't hurt me, or I understand if you have to take a step away, because I just don't know how I can make this godly as I navigate through this environment.
What is so you're famous. What is your advice to a 16 or 17 or 18-year-old that all they want to do is be famous? Is that something they should aim to be?
No, because it depends how they're presenting themselves. I think at the end of the day, no, you should strive to be authentic. And then if fame becomes a byproduct, then you'll always be grateful that you're able to be yourself and you're able to reach a larger audience. But if your whole goal is to be famous at any cost, you're going to end up being inauthentic. And then when you get to that place, you're going to hate the fact that, hey, I have to now play to this audience and make it appear that I am this person that I'm not. And you'll always feel this tension between you and who you perceive yourself to be to others. So my advice is be authentically you, and if the fame comes, great. If you can help more people through what you're doing, then do it. But do not try to be famous at all costs, because you'll end up feeling that tension that entire time.
Do you think most famous people are happy?
I would say no. I don't think so, because I think a lot of people are famous, but they're not authentic. But they've just come to terms with that and said, this is who I have to be. I do think there are some, but I think the majority probably just saw an opportunity and said, okay, I'm going to become this person because I see an opportunity.
So let's bring it back kind of here. June 10th, you said, is the big date. Is that right?
Yes, June 10th.
June 10th.
Yes.
And how can people help? How can people support you? And then if you get the judgment you want, you just want to close this chapter?
Yeah, to support me, I really just want people to look into the story. I want people to talk about it, just keep eyes on it, because again, I think accountability comes through visibility. It certainly doesn't hurt. So I want people to share this story so that we're more likely to have accountability be had and justice to be served. Beyond that point, again, then whatever happens afterwards, I'm no fortune teller. I don't know what's going to happen. I just hope I'm able to use this whole experience to help other people and use it for
What's your advice to men right now that are being wrongly accused of sex crimes?
Understand that you're not alone, and just go find your support system.
And keep fighting?
Yeah, and keep fighting.
Were there times when you wanted to give up?
Absolutely. Yeah, there were many times where I said maybe I should just end things because...
You mean like kill yourself?
I had those thoughts, yeah. I had suicidal thoughts.
Wow, that's really...
And I wasn't the only one of the other victims that have had those thoughts as well, and that's why I want to stop this from happening again. I don't want any man to ever feel like that.
Well, I of course not, and know that you're not alone and that you have a great purpose in front of you. In closing here, the date is on June 10th. People can support and pray for you, and get behind you. And who knows that any ambitions? What you want to do for the rest of your life?
Again, I just want to be able to be a voice for those that feel like they don't have one. And I feel that I've done something very unique, and I have the ability. I'm very open and transparent, and I think that vulnerability allows me to reach a large group of people. And so I hope that I'm able to continue helping as many people as I'm able to, whether that's 1,000, 10,000, 1,000,000. I don't know. I don't care. I just want to be able to serve my purpose, and I think my purpose is tied into being an advocate with mental health.
Clayton Echard, thanks so much, man. God bless you. Look forward to getting to know you even better. And I hope you have a triumph of truth and justice.
I hope so, too.
On June 10th. And I'll say it more bluntly, there's an attack on men in this country. And it's happening, white men especially. And it's wrong. It's terrible. And we need to turn the incentive structure away against that and administer some justice. So thank you, Clayton, so much. God bless you, man.
Thank you so much.
Email us freedom@charliekirk.com and subscribe to our podcast. Open up your podcast application and type in Charlie Kirk Show. There it is right there. Tonight we have our Rumble show, Thought Crimes. So you guys should check that out. 3 hours of radio again tomorrow. And our Young Women's Leadership Summit is coming up next week in San Antonio, Texas. And then get your tickets to Detroit, tpaction.com/peoples. God bless you guys and talk to you soon.